Alright, Bonehawks, this video is all about the Bonehawk podcast. Back for another week. Today is our Kameo tier list. We're going to go through, rank all the cameos, but not before we go through your comments that you left last week. Well, thank you for that. We got so many, it was really hard to choose which ones to include. So, that being said, how good are the cameos? How good am I? We're going to have our Combat League update, and we're going to find out how good haters' knowledge of the alphabet truly is. Let's get into it.
Accept your death.
So I want to shout out the viewers right now because we had so many good comments last week. It was really hard to go through them all and pick the ones that we really wanted to touch on this week. So I'm kind of excited to get into this. Hater, of course, helped me out with picking some of the ones that we wanted to go over here. So get this going here. Starting with one from my good friend Blue Raz Rush, friend of the channel, of course, helps me out with a lot of stuff. Completely unrelated to the podcast and all, but you've been playing competitively since the 3D era. What's your favorite memory of those busted GameSpy NetPlay days? P.S. Can I be a part of Turbo Time? No, you're not a part of Turbo Time. I love... If you've ever seen the show, I think you should leave. It's hilarious if you love cringe humor. Have you ever seen that show, Hater? It's fantastic.
Who's in it?
Tim... Oh, it's a bunch of, I think, the SNL writers. Can't remember his last name.
Is it the guy, is the very first sketch in it, he's some sort of salesman or
He's in a
people
job
are interviewing
interview.
and he starts reading his phone and stuff to try to tune people out. It's really chaotic sort of comedy. Am I thinking of something else?
I think you might be thinking of something else. The first episode is him in a job interview and he goes to leave the job interview and then he's trying to pull the push door. And then he ends up just breaking the door because he's just embarrassed. He's like, no, I was just here yesterday. Anyways, fantastic show.
Yeah, that's on the same one. Okay.
So I do want to share a story from those days on how I actually found the FGC. Because playing online in Deception, I ran into, and I'll never forget this individual because I don't even know if they're still around. They have a different tag or rebranded. But the tag at the time was Woo Killer Priest, which I think is... a shout out to a rap band or something, I'm not sure. But I ran into him and ranked, and whatever the online mode was, and we just kept playing and playing. He kept beating me, and then he finally got on his mic and said, "Do you want some help to learn how to play the game?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be fantastic." So we went into an online a private 1v1, and he's got his character just sitting on the screen and trying to tell me okay, well there's these different buttons and these different buttons and these all do this. And as he's talking, I just I take Lee May and I just start cheap shot uppercutting him because he's not playing the game. And he's like, bro. And then he starts attacking me back and he starts winning and I just quit.
No.
And that was the start of me getting into it because I kept getting beat by all these guys, and then I finally found the forums, which at the time was Mortal Kombat Online, and I joined and I was like, "Hey everybody, it's me," and everyone was like, "Fuck you scrub." I was just so notorious for...
Right, you finally found someone to take you under their wing and teach you a thing or two, and you cheap shot uppercut him.
Cheap shot uppercut him. That's I love that. That's a core memory for me. But I think, young shitty me has come a long way and has really changed a lot as far as that aspect goes. So,
is it toxic, Dink?
I was the most toxic. There was literally nobody more toxic than... Okay, so moving on. This next comment is pretty long, so I'm going to paraphrase without hopefully butchering the spirit of the question. Start with, man, I'm in such a weird spot, and I want to know what y'all think. Been maining Tanya since day one. Love her design, love her weapon. Don't like the Goro meta team, and a little bothered by how top tier it is and how that reflects on the Tanya community at large. And consider dropping that team for a new one. So I think the question here is if that mindset decision is based on ego, is this isolated to this individual? So...
Could you feel shame for not playing the team that you want to play just because of the way the team is perceived at large? Because it's very powerful and it's very popular. And I think there is ego in there. I don't think it's necessarily an unnatural or bad reaction. Just told that story recently about MK11 Sindel. I went through the exact same thing. And he also mentioned the mirror matches and stuff, right? Mirror matches are lame and all that sort of stuff. Mirrors. So I wouldn't feel bad about it. It is kind of like a bummer, like when you're. That's why, like when we talk, like candidly, I'm always like secretly wishing the characters I want to play are mid tier, because I don't want that specific problem. That's why I thought that it was like a good comment. So yeah, I think it's ego, but I don't think that you're necessarily wrong. Like I understand the struggle for sure.
There's always an aspect of just play top tier, bro. So like you really have to kind of weigh that out over what's fun for you. Some people, I know a lot of tournament players, obviously, they just like winning. They don't really care how they get there. They're just going to play whatever team can help them get there the easiest. And, as they should. That's competitive play. But if you want to play like myself, like I want to play competitively and like I want to do well, but I also have my two characters in this game, Quan Chi and Shujinko, so I want to make them work. They're not the best team in the game by far, but they're not low enough that it's going to hinder me from actually having fun and playing the game. That's where things can change a bit if it's hindering you to the point where you're not having fun playing at all.
Right, and there is a lot to be said about like really liking your team, not just settling for it because it's got something that you might want to use or whatever, but like really being excited about it and exploring the synergies and stuff, and not wanting to divert from that, like being kind of like invested in it. But I mean, it's got to click, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like a feeling of making it your own too. Like everybody is playing Tanya Goro, so you're the one playing Tanya Sector or whatever. Like you're kind of creating your own, and that's the joy of this game and the joy of Kameo is it allows you to be creative and expressive and all that kind of thing. So I think that's part where they really hit the nail on the head with that for sure.
It's really cool. Like playing ranked, or even from a spectator standpoint, like watching streams, whether they're online or offline, and seeing teams that you're not used to seeing. You know, that's kind of like exciting. Like, ooh, what are they gonna do here?
What secret sauce do they have that we're going to see here?
Right. And there's we were talking about that earlier, right? When you fight up against a team composition you've never seen before, and you're kind of like guessing what they can do based on what you know about them individually, but when you haven't seen them together,
And then they smack you.
they kind of have that advantage just through lack of familiarity.
Yeah, I was playing a Scorpion Motaro earlier that was doing some real funky stuff. So it's cool. It always keeps me on my toes. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Thanks for the comment. Great comment. Love
Good
that.
comment.
So Drew Landfeld says, "Yo, Dink, what's your take on the Kendrick Drake beef?" And to be a little controversial here, I don't give a fuck. How about you, hater?
Oh, Dink, you're gonna get roasted. I don't really care either, and it's not like I can appreciate like what transpired, but I could already tell it's old news, is because I don't pay attention to that sort of stuff. But like when it was happening, I couldn't avoid it, even though I'm not even trying to pay attention to it because it was just everywhere. And now I don't hear about it at all.
It was
so
like 2 days.
I already know
everywhere.
it's kind of like old news. So like it's the way that things work these days, right? Everyone's already kind of moved on.
Yeah, it's true. It was like a 3-day thing, and it was all over all the news, and now it's gone and moved on to something else. So, but thanks for the comment. Appreciate you. Moving on to Rattlehead. Shout out to Rattlehead. Regarding Combat League, one thing I noticed is that a lot of people don't pay attention to their meter. They try to break even though clearly they just use an enhanced special move or their cameo is not available. Of course, the usual patterns as well. People love to wake up block even though you adapt to it. A lot of them also like to try to stay almost full screen with certain characters as soon as the match starts, and of course, poke grab. This whole comment sounds like I feel so attacked right now. The amount of times I get punished by just holding up block, I'm like, damn it, they've thrown me like 3 times in a row trying to zone out characters with teleports. Like, oh man. But we were talking about this earlier with like how sometimes playing Combat League can get you into some not so great habits if you're not used to playing at that high level.
Exactly. You're not even sure if it's working because it's real, like because it's good, or if they're just not blocking,
Yeah. So let's go into that right now. So thanks everyone for the comments, by the way. Hopefully yours will be featured next week. Combat League. We were going to do a little Combat League update every week. So have you been playing, Hater? How's that going? Have you reaching your goals?
A little bit. The last time we talked, I think the last podcast, I was like at warrior rank. I just like kind of spent the morning going through it, and I didn't have a lot of time to play this week, but I played a little bit yesterday and then some this morning. So I was like teetering between like master and grandmaster back and forth. Like my points were set up in such a way that one win would barely push me over, then one loss would barely push me back. So
Right.
kind of had like a little, finally found a little buffer there. So that's where I am right now, grandmaster. What did you do this week?
I've been working a lot on my neutral because I've been really bad in that in that department lately. Because I just get so used to just throwing out like the bone dome and stuff like that, just like in the absolutely wrong spots, and it killed me a lot. So I've been working on being a little bit more patient, playing a little bit more footsies. I did manage to get to God tier 4 times.
Yeah, that's
So I mean, that's the struggle is real. So I'm really trying to hit that Elder God grind, but I'm trying to get as much knowledge as I can going into Combo Breaker in a couple weeks here. So I had a really good tournament run if you saw that earlier this week. So that was definitely some good confidence for me. But yeah, that's
yeah,
my Combat League update. Not much happened on my
for
front.
sure. So when you're running around in God rank or demigod rank or wherever you are, and the matchmaking can be a little you get paired up with people like a few levels down or above you, right? When you're demigod, there's only a couple above you or whatever. But say like you're in God rank now and you are matched up with like someone that's in champion or master or something. Like
Right.
what kind of advice are you giving those people? Yeah,
I mean,
based on the
it's
gameplay you expect from that.
yeah, it's tough. Like generally speaking, I find there's a lot less blocking in the lower tiers, you know? So I feel like if you played a little bit more defensive and kind of more reactionary game, they're more likely to do something that's unsafe. But in the higher
But
tiers,
what about my tier? Well, what about my turn, Dink? You're just gonna steal it from me if I do that. What do you say to that?
I mean, you gotta make the read. If that's what's going on, then that's what's going on. But for the most part, I'll start off defensive, and I'll just see how risky they're willing to go. And if they are like doing things, then maybe they're playing fairly safe, but I'll poke on something that's -4, like or like try to do like my standing one to get a combo or something. Just challenge just a little bit, just every once in a while.
Do you know who Anakin is, the Tekken player?
I've
He's like
heard,
a Red Bull player for Tekken.
I've heard the name, but I'm not too familiar.
Okay, so I was watching one of his VODs when the game first came out, and a piece of advice that he gave in this situation is like, don't just start reacting to stuff or making reads on things you've only seen one time. You have to wait for a pattern, and a pattern can't be established until you've seen it 2 times. And if it happens like the same sort of situation, I feel like that's when you can start implementing those reads, right? Are they going to go in and try to take my turn, or I'm gonna get them while they're trying to do that, right? Because they do the same shit every single time.
Yep, that's true. You just gotta make the reads and the download, download complete, that kind of thing. Just see, okay, they've done this twice now. I'm gonna try and challenge it on the third time, and maybe the third time is the time that they mix it up. So like, there's the mind game there, right? About
But
who's
don't get
playing
all
who.
hung up on the possibilities unless you've already seen them in action,
Exactly.
right? Who knows how the player's going to play,
Yep.
what tools they'll use.
Especially in like a tournament setting or a combat league setting when you're kind of, you know, trying to get all this information with a certain number of games, and that can really affect how you play too. If you're used to playing, like a first to two, and then you play like a long set against somebody, and that could go completely differently because you're not adapting as much, or you're those 2 games, all your stuff was working, and it got you through those two
I
games. But in a long
Yep.
set, they get figured out.
I totally agree, and I was thinking about that. How usually the experience is that long sets with friends are the fun part, and ranked is hell for me. But in this game, it's turned on its head. I have actually kind of ironically found Combat League more fun than long sets. Not that long sets are hell, right? But that's where I start to feel like more salty as things kind of go on in the same mix, like the same unseeable mix-ups, the same whatever. It's like, okay, I need a break, but
Right.
you kind of have the rotating carousel of teams and players and skill levels and things like that when you play ranked, and it's been pretty good, a pretty okay experience for me
I'm
so
surprised
far.
because I know you were very skeptical about getting back into it. So I'm glad to hear that you're
Yeah, and
having
I
a good time
really
in there.
don't care. I'm not trying to get hung up on numbers. I look at them. I'm more curious about just what my win loss ratio is, just to kind of get a reference point and see if it's like moving up or down, because I kind of like know what it is in other games that I've played, but I like literally don't care about losing. Like it doesn't make me mad. Like when I kept getting knocked out of Grandmaster back down to Master like 4 times in a row. Like it was literally like back and
Right.
forth, over and over and over again. Like other than just kind of like the annoyance of that happening, I wasn't like salty. Oh, it didn't feel like rage quitting. I didn't close app. I didn't do like whatever. And sometimes, man, I'm like, sometimes 7 games into a set. It's like, all right, I need a break. I'm going for a walk around the block, like, so it's weird how it's kind of inverted.
So speaking of salty, I want to talk about Mavado because I have some things I want to say about this cameo. Holy crap, does this guy make me absolutely the most biggest baby on the history of the planet. Have you?
What is it that's getting you? I watched you play against some Mavados today, so I already know what my observations are. But what do you feel like he brings? That's like the kind of strong, the stuff that's beating you when you're fighting against it.
The absolute most rage-inducing thing to me is Johnny Cage Mavado. Like the fact
Yeah.
that he gets an armored full screen move into a full combo is just it irritates me to no end. That's so stupid. I hate that.
A 850 health character, baby.
I know. It's funny because Johnny Cage started out being a bad matchup for Quan Chi. And then he got adjusted and Quan got adjusted, and then it felt like a good matchup. And now it's right back to feeling like day one again. Like I can't keep him out consistently. He's just gonna shadow kick in, and Mavado's just gonna combo if it hits. And if he sees me do anything, just armor, poof, in. There he goes. But
I think what's especially good about Mavado when it comes to that, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but like while we're on the topic of that, right? That is just you can just buffer the special cancel, and if the shadow kick whiffs or it gets blocked, no waste of cameo, no nothing. It only comes out on hit. So I think that's that. I feel like that's both a blessing and a curse. And if you've played Mavado, you probably understand what I'm, if you know, like sort of thing. But
yeah,
that's really strong.
he's
To have that loaded buffer behind anything, and it only comes out on hit.
he's a really strong cameo. He's very, very good. We're not really ready to place him in our tier list yet, so we're gonna exclude him, but we did want to kind of have a conversation about him beforehand, just to kind of include him in the cameo conversation. I messed around with him and Quan. If you watched my video, I don't think their synergy is great. He can do some things like, he gets skydrop combos and throw combos and all that kind of stuff, but it just doesn't synergize with him like he does other characters, and I think that's totally fine. I don't think it makes him any less of a cameo. What kind of have you found any dirt with Molina in Mavado?
Yeah, I've a bunch. I'm probably not gonna like play the team, but like what's so nice is like I was saying, just that special cancel buffer. So you put that like, how many times do people get clipped by the low from her mid string, the low that's at the end of that? She
Oh
normally
yeah,
can't do anything with that. And if she's got Chameleon or Sonya, you see them go flying above your head when you block the low because you have to like commit to it. You can't react to the hit. Where with Mavado, you just kind of have it on the back end of it. If it hits, you're ready for the combo. And if it blocks, nothing happens, and you still have all your cameo meter.
right.
Some dirty trap setups. I feel like he's a good cameo if you want to play aggressive. And if you hate getting stuck full screen, let me tell you about his back cameo move. What's that called? That's not the Nomad's Touch. That's the OTG.
Oh
But the one where he doesn't give you a projectile, but he kind of turns you into a projectile. Gives him
yeah, that is the
the old
Nomad's
smoochy
touch.
smoochy.
I like that. Shout out to Deception. That was really nice. That's a good move. That's really
Because
good for
that was
challenging.
Cabal's move, right?
Yep, it was. So they gave that to Mavado, which is interesting.
So it closes the space, and he's like plus 14. Whoever did the move, you're left at like plus 14. You get to stand up before them, and continue into whatever. The OTG is really good, and if people, the thing is, so you can block it, right? But if you block it, wake up options are removed, so delay wake up and no wake up window to do it. But once you block it, you can armor, so it's not like a checkmate or anything like that. But it removes that option. If you choose to just take the hit, it's outside of the combo, so it's an unscaled 60 damage.
Right.
And that's like what Scorpion's OTG does, is EX like Hellfire sort of move. So Scorpion with Mavado can get
Oh, double.
120 extra unscaled damage
That's
at the end of his
insane.
combos with
That's
Mavado.
insane.
And he gets sick combos. That mid string, that new mid they gave him, mid, works really well with Mavado. That's another one of those things you just kind of have the special cancel buffered, and then when they get hit by the mid, because they try to duck the high, Mavado's right there. You've got the forward cameo, and then you do like a 400 damage combo on the back of that. So
Damn.
it's always cool. It's like, the first like couple weeks of Ermac, how people are kind of exploring ideas and all that sort of stuff. We're like in that phase with Mavado, but like look at where Ermac is now. You don't see him around. We were talking about that a little bit earlier, right?
Yeah, the
What,
lack of Ermac.
how do you feel about Ermac right now compared
I don't see
to
him at
earlier?
all. I don't see him at all anymore. And we kind of predicted that, right? That like it would start out, everyone would be like, "Oh, Ermac," and Ermac's everywhere, and then he's just nowhere. And I haven't seen a single one today in Combat League, and I've been playing. I played for like 4 hours this morning, so like, I don't
I
know.
run into them. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have kind of like dropped him, but even like if you I feel the cancels are mandatory. It's really the only thing that's kind of scary about the character.
That's his thing. That's his jam, is the cancels. I think that's what they wanted him to be built around.
If people aren't doing that and playing mind games with that, I don't feel like he's super threatening
No.
beyond just like a really fundamental level.
What did Retro tweet this morning? Like, does Ermac win any matchups or something like
Yeah,
that?
I don't know. I don't know if that was facetious. If that was kind of like a wait a second, like is he a bad character?
Is he
I'm not
actually
sure what the
bad?
context was of that question, but yeah, I thought that was funny because we were just talking about it.
All right. Well, before we get too off put on Ermac, we should. I think it's time to dive into our tier list. Are you ready, Hater?
Oh yeah, let's go for it.
So here we are back with your lovely tier maker that you did up for us. I'll link this in the description for anyone that wants to make their own. So it looks like they're listed alphabetically, correct? I think that's how we did it last time.
Yeah.
All right, so starting with Cyrax. Cyrax recently had a bit of an aha moment in I think it was the Oceania Pro Comp event.
Yeah, we're like the Australians and stuff were playing. That's who it was Waz and man, what was his name? I forget.
The Sindel Cyrax mix in the corner, stealing your meter, using the Sindel to like pull Cyrax back, like just some of the dirtiest stuff I've seen in a long time. And now I'm seeing a lot of Kenshi and Cyrax. Similar idea to, have the little chopper go out and so Kenshi can call Santo. I think, although he is a bit of a shadow of his former self, I do think Cyrax is just a really, really good cameo. And I should mention this before we get too far into it, is the two main factors that I'm thinking of when I'm making this tier list is compatibility, like synergy with the cast, who synergizes the most, and then also your cooldowns. Those are like the two main things that I'm taking into consideration. Is that about consistent with you as well there, Hater?
Right, like how many good teams they kind of like help compose scattered across like the regular tier list and things like that.
Yeah, very similar. So I wanted to lay that groundwork before. If you think that Kameo Tier list should be done in a different way, let us know. But I have Cyrax in the A tier. I think he's super solid cameo with pretty much whoever you pick. Gives combos extensions. His cooldowns are nice. Stealing meter with the net was something that's really cool. You're stuck in that net forever, by the way. That's very annoying. You ever played against Peacemaker Cyrax? He gets you in the net and he
No.
just does like the freaking air dart like 5 times in a row. That is the most obnoxious thing I think I've ever seen in my life. It is so, it just makes me so mad.
I love Cyrax. So like the early Cyrax meta was to the block sequences and things like that with the copter chopper. And now like what really highlights this cameo is if a character can both special cancel, like actually combo into the net, because not every character can do that. If you can find
Right.
synergy, if your character's able to do that and you can find some good bomb synergy, ways to naturally, like as you're pressuring, like mix in either an overhead, a low, or a throw with you at a distance that you're not going to get hit by the bomb. That's the really neat stuff. I don't think that applies to a lot of the characters, which is what keeps him from being higher up. If he still had the OG cooldowns on the other stuff, he would still be tipping
Oh,
top,
easily.
I'm sure.
Yeah, easily. That week 1 meta, you know what I'm saying? Moving on here, next is Darius. Very interesting cameo. I like what they were trying to do with him. I never see him outside of maybe the odd Reiko, but now most Reikos are going to Tremor. or something like
Trimmer,
that.
Mavado.
Mavado, yeah, same idea. Uh, Darius has some stuff. I've seen him do some pretty mix heavy stuff against Sub-Zero and whatnot. Uh, but that being said, I do think he is the weakest cameo in the game. I have him in the D tier, and
Really? Weakest in the whole game.
I think he's the weakest cameo. His cooldowns on the good things that he wants to do are just not very useful. Like, he's away for a long time for not doing anything too crazy.
He does have some cooldown issues, and that's what makes him good with a character like Sub-Zero's, because Sub-Zero can only he can just choose to spend half a bar because he can set it up off of clone. He doesn't need to do the first part of it and then end up spending the second half of his meter to set up the axe kick sort of thing. So if he could do that to a lot more of the roster, so this feeds into like probably that part of the consideration for where he is, right? When you're talking about cooldowns and then just synergy across the roster, he does. I feel like he can bring something to everybody, but man, he's just so expensive.
Yeah, and when I went through this like a few times the other day, just trying to see like if I could place him, and even my C tier, like he doesn't feel like he belongs in the same tier as them. So, I mean, I don't think he's like completely unviable, but he doesn't synergize very well. He's got big cooldowns. It just kind of like doesn't really check any of my boxes. You know what I'm saying?
He's one of those like we were talking about earlier, where you see a Darius out in the wild with a character you've never seen him with before.
Right.
You're like, oh great, what's coming? Like,
What's happening
what do
now?
they got? What do they got cooking? You
Yeah,
know?
totally, 100%. So yeah, good Darius in the D tier. Next up is Frost. So this is one of your favorites. I've seen lots of crazy stuff with Frost, and I remember them saying on the Combat Cask something about how you could use like Frost for mix-ups or something like that, and then I remember
They
you
keep calling her
famously,
low good when it's not.
yeah, it's very slow, very reactable. Well, I won't say it's slow necessarily. It's okay, but it is reactable.
It's 26 frames, I think.
Yeah,
26 or 28.
so I think like the Frost Bomb is good. I never see anybody use the what is it, like the little like punch walk thing she does. I don't know what it's called, Frosty's Revenge or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, Frosty's Revenge. The
That's such
little
a crazy name. Yeah, I feel like if they made that move better somehow, like maybe like the first hit of it a mid or something. I'm not really sure how they
I
would
think
change
that
that.
could be good in the right hands. I mean, they're all highs. That's so much. So, say like you're a character that wants to play, say, somewhere between far mid screen and full screen, and you've also conditioned them to block in whatever sort of like situation. Like they're not if they're not going to duck that high, and you just do what standing 1-2, just cancel into that. That's like so much chip damage if they don't flawless block, and you're pushed like 3/4 screen. That might
Yeah,
be an embellishment. I'd have to see it to be like reminded, but it's like super good spacing. If you can take advantage of that, if that's where you want to be, that's a good move. Her Ice Crash is a super good like neutral poke. That thing is huge, and it's plus on block. It's not a super great reversal. It does work. Like when it works, and it has really good hit advantage when it hits. But she does seem like on the weaker side, and this is the meta's all ambushes, and she's the only cameo without a single one.
she is. Yeah,
So
she definitely is not that. So I have her in the C tier. That might be a little low. I mean, maybe B, but I mean, taking everything into consideration, I think there's just a lot of cameos that do what she does better. So I have her in the.
I think we'll see as the discussion like progresses and stuff. I don't know. I'm fine with C.
Okay, well, you've
Most
used
people
her.
consider her the very bottom. You say Darius is the bottom. Most people would put Frost there, like from what I hear.
Right, and yeah, I guess I don't see them in the same, like, being comparable tier wise, but I mean that's just my little old man opinion. So
I love Frost. I'm looking for any excuse to use her, but it's just not very strong.
not yet. Maybe they'll change her. Maybe she'll be one of those Shujinko cameos that gets like a patch pretty much all for herself. You know, that'd be nice.
That'd make me very happy.
Next up is Goro. So Goro is also one that suffers on the cooldown side of things, like kind of takes forever to come back, but his utility is really, really strong. Like, I think you could probably use him with any character in the game, and you would have some level of success with him, you know? Kind of suffers the same way that Frost does, and having like a couple not so useful moves, like his punch walk like is super slow to start up. Like I was messing with it the other day, and it's like, wonder if I can get this to like as a combo ender, and like no,
It's
it
all
is
highs
so.
too.
Yeah, same idea. I mean, I get that they
The
were.
grab's too slow. Like, so he's got the crouching grab, but that's so slow that you don't see that a lot. And he's kind of like a one. He's an up punch bitch. You know, that's what people use him for.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it. And like, there were some like I saw, Wraith, I think it is, do like some crazy setups with the unblockable stomp, which I don't see anybody really
Oh, that's
using.
cool.
Yeah, like more he's
That's
Shang
your full
Tsung,
meter for what, like 80 or 90 damage or something.
something like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty nutty. I have Goro in B tier. I think he's a perfectly like mid range cameo.
I think that Goro composes too many high level meta teams to be that low. Just my opinion. Early it was Gora, Ashra, Goro, but now plus on block armored launchers. So Tanya and Kung Lao, whoever else, those are obviously the prominent ones, the super common ones.
Right.
I feel like he brings a lot with just that one single move. And you can see the evidence of that in all of the high level play. He's everywhere. He's like a super common cameo. I think that alone would put him either like the very top of B or the bottom of A or something. But he's obviously bringing something to these matchups.
All right. Well, we'll let the viewers weigh in as well and see what y'all think. If I'm being absolute downplaying Andy here, we're putting him in B, or if Hater's right and he bottom
Yeah,
of
I'm
A, something like
curious
that.
to see. I'm curious to see who's right and who believes Dink. No, I'm just kidding. You're probably you're
Roasted.
probably more accurate than me, right? I'm the one that's going to get roasted, but that's just my observations.
That's hilarious. I love that. Okay, so we're moving on to Janet Cage. So this cameo, I'm not even gonna really wait here. This is an S tier cameo for sure. Like everything that she offers, that like I see most people just using like the 3 jump punch combos, which at the moment I'm sure is like, yeah, that's good, but like her potential is insane. Like with her little Sento stance thing and the combos that I've seen from that, like if somebody could get those down, like I would wager that we're gonna see Ninja Killer at Combo Breaker do some absolutely insane combos. Like I think because his execution is so good, it would not surprise me if he's been working with this cameo. What do you think, Hater thoughts? Like, am I wrong here? I didn't really hesitate, so I'm pretty strong
Oh,
opinion on this one.
she's super strong, and you see her everywhere. You do see a lot of the triple punch combos, like sort of things, but the way that Honeybee plays her with Reptile is awesome because it's not just jump punch combos and stuff. It's a lot of wall use,
Right.
like really getting the wall out when he has them cornered and kind of creating that space, and he's going invisible and backing up, and she's just standing there, right?
Yeah, leaning up against the
Just kind
wall.
of like you got a little sandwich with the wall sort of thing like going on. I love stuff like that, but it's kind of like Cyrex Copter Chopper right now, where she's got all these things that she can do, but all I see is 3 jump punches. Every time I see the
Yep.
meter go down, it's jump punches that are coming out. I mean, I see Nut Punch and some other stuff. I never see the Sento ever.
I haven't seen that in matches yet either. I just know that it's going to be super strong if somebody can get that
Look
down.
at how
So
powerful she is, and people don't even use that.
I know, right?
It's so crazy.
She's definitely busted. So I don't think there's much more to say there.
She's good. She's obviously top tier. Like this is, I think she's a good example. When people say they want to see cameos raised to like the level of like the DLC, the intricacies and the depth of the DLC cameos, I think Janet is a really good example. She's got a lot of depth that makes her applicable with a lot of characters. Not all of them need to use them the same way, even though like right now, like she's very good with anybody that can use that jump punch ambush.
Right. Jax is an interesting one. Now, if you've seen Retro play, Retro absolutely breaks this cameo. Like Katana Jax, like unblockable combos into your whole life bar. Like
It's disgusting.
it's really, really gross. So giving a cameo an unblockable move is absolutely crazy. But also the amount of people I've seen kill themselves with with a ground pound is quite humorous. Specifically Omni-Man. I'm not exactly sure why it's him if there's a certain setup, but like they always just end up like killing
Getting
themselves,
hit by their own
getting hit by
setup.
their own setup. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what you're
I
going
love
for
that
there,
kind of
but
balance. It's got like the counterplay built into it, right? This is gonna like hit everybody, so
yeah,
it's cool. Like so, Katana, she's airborne in some of her strings, and so I see that as part of the setup. So like you just go into the block pressure, but she's off the ground when the pound hits, while you're in block stun
yep.
from whatever you got pressured into. I think that before you put them up here, I'm consulting with the Magic 8 Ball, and I think that Jax is a solid A tier cameo.
That's exactly where I was going to put him. He does not feel as strong on the same level as Janet, but he is definitely if he's definitely at the top of the A tier. If I was going to list the A tier, he would be definitely near the top because he does some broke stuff. He kind of suffers a little bit. Like it feels like a lot of cameos have like one or two moves they just don't use, like his little square, or what's it called, the little wave thing that he
It's
does.
because it's not really a projectile. Like that's good up close on block pressure, but that's not going to get you anything else.
Yeah,
But the frames are good on it. It's something safe to do, and it's not as fast as other reversals. So that won't like that couldn't cover like Melina's
right,
gap in 1-2 or something reversal like that.
right. Yeah, so maybe I would like to see them when they adjust, because I think having, like you were saying, having the the old cameos, the new cameos, and bringing up to Janet. I'd like to see them adjust some of those moves that don't really get used as much. I think that could be one of those moves that could be maybe a little bit more useful. But the unblockable definitely just overshadows anything else you could do
Well,
anyway.
not to mention all the extensions that you get, just like so much damage on the back of that. And like in clutch situations, strike throw situations, you get in that forward throw, and it's the
Oh
end of the
yeah,
round. And if you have bar to dump, may as well just spend it to like clutch something out. It's something good to have on deck that's unique to him. But the trade
yeah.
off is that his throw without meter does less than a normal throw would.
Man, I was testing it out like in the early days of, like, if you read an up block in full combo or in full meter with that
No,
grab, it's like almost like 400 damage. Is crazy.
it's like crushing blow sequence from MKX or
Yeah,
MK11.
MK11. Yeah, like you
Yeah.
you tech the wrong way, bro. Moving on to Kano, and if I believe the only big change to Kano since the game came out that I can think of was that they changed his eye laser to a mid. I believe it was originally a high, and then they increased.
Was he always a 50 health deficit character?
I believe
Like
he
in the stress
was.
test and stuff? Okay.
I don't know about the stress test. I can't remember that far back. I remember I used him with Liu Kang though. It was a lot of fun coming up with the combos with the knives. His knives are obnoxious. Kano Ball's
Yeah.
obnoxious.
So before like DLC, the thing that made Kano distinct is that he had multiple ambushes. I guess other ones have multiple ambushes, but he had both the ball and the knives, and the knives cover your negative frames and they extend combos. They're super powerful. Somebody was saying in the comments about kind of how crazy the DLC cameos are and the simplification of the original ones, how simple they are, but they have such strong tools. We'll talk about it again when we get to Sonya, I'm sure. But Kano's another one. Like he's only got 3 moves, but knives are so good. Just like all by
It's true.
themselves.
It's true. You're not
Uh,
wrong.
it's so good. So he's a where are you putting Kano?
He's an A tier for me. Again, doesn't quite
Okay.
feel on the same level as Janet, but he's definitely up there. How do you feel about that?
I feel okay about that.
Good. All right. So now we're moving on to Chameleon. And this is my second S tier cameo. And I don't think anyone would disagree because she really does everything. Her cooldowns are fantastic. And she synergizes with literally everybody because of
Right.
all the things she can
makes
do.
every character better and some characters cracked.
Yeah, 100%. She is. If I was to rate it, I would say that she's probably better than Janet, just because she's a lot easier to use. You can clearly see where she's at. You, as an opponent, always have to be kind of aware of where she is in her rotations, and that's helped me out a lot because the amount of times that I see her switch into Melina, and then as soon as she does, they immediately do like the ball roll mix up or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to hit it before she changes into Jade. So that's really important in fighting her. But that's just one extra thing you have to think about in that whole matchup is what's Chameleon doing? She's got to all constantly be on your mind. And for that reason, that's easily why I have her in S tier. I don't even.
And 2 out of her 3 disguises, she's super scary. The floats were really scary, and then size and roll combined, like when she's in Melina disguise, that is, that's party time for a lot of characters. Even like raw ball roll, just dash up into a
Just do it.
raw overhead or
Yep.
whatever. It's an unseeable overhead, full combo launcher.
Easy money. Yeah, she's
Negative 17 on block, but depending on the range, some characters can't even punish that
yeah, and
because of the weird pushback.
I found that Chameleon sometimes gets in your way of punishing it. Like you'll go to punish your opponent and you'll accidentally hit Chameleon because she's still out, and then the opponent can block by the time that goes back into it. So
I don't know what they could do to tone that down. If they did like want to tone it down, it'd have to be something with the cooldowns are so crazy. Like
yeah,
she's just always there, but that's part of like what's so compelling about her and what's so flashy, and it is cool to kind of see all the trickery and stuff that's going on, but man, I'm kind of tired of it. It's so dominating. It's like there's such a disparity between her and pretty much everyone else.
yeah, I'm sure we're safe to say she's the best cameo in the game for sure. I don't think that's even a debate anyone would have.
Right.
Kung Lao, obviously another character who is a shadow of his former self, rightfully so though. But still really good cameo. Still gives some characters throw combos. Liu Kang, still his obnoxious low hat. You know, he's got a little spin that I've seen more people using lately as like a combo extender, so that's kind of neat to see. He's just a cameo that like all of his moves are useful. His cooldowns aren't terrible, even though they changed it, and he has a lot of utility. So I have him in A tier as well. I think that's where he should live for now. What do you think, Hater? Am I out to lunch?
I think that he's very strong, even after so he's not plus on the low hat anymore. That was probably like the biggest hit. And then the cooldown when you're holding, so when the low hat is the buzzsaw, the held one, that's the cooldown I'm relying on. I was listening to Mr. Aquaman talk about this. I think it was during Texas Showdown. Like when he's using it too. So he gives like a character like Melina a full screen projectile that also happens to be a low with a super sick cooldown. And then all the setups, all the fun to blockables and stuff. He's another cameo that makes some teams super cracked. Like I feel like he's a part of a lot of meta teams. I would be inclined in contrast to like everybody else, yeah, I agree. That's my really long way of saying like I probably agree with A, but I feel like it should be higher. But he has gotten some adjust. Like I don't know, it feels wrong putting him like lower than that because I don't like him. I'm so sick. I'm still so traumatized
from the Lao days,
early
Lao
MK,
days.
like last fall, like sort of thing. But yeah, I agree. And he's still like really calm, and you see him all the time.
Yeah.
It's not like most people dropped him and moved on to Chameleon. Some people play obviously like multiples and stuff, but I still see him everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, he just again to me, he doesn't feel on the same level as Janet and Chameleon, so that's kind of where I have him, where he is. But yeah, let us know if you disagree with that. Motaro is one that I've been seeing a lot more lately, and I'm happy about it because I really like the cameo. I think it's super fun. His cooldowns are actually really good, and his utility is excellent with his reflect and his teleport, and even his little turret thing that he does. I have him up in A tier as well. Again, just doesn't feel on the same level as the S tier, but still like a character or a cameo that can just kind of mesh with everybody. You know, somebody can find a use for Motaro defensively or offensively. You know.
I do know. I've dabbled with him a little bit. I haven't found like any sauce, but he seems to be a lot of what's happening currently. A lot of people experimenting with him. I think that Geras Motaro, and earlier we saw that Scorpion Motaro.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's some tricky business.
I think
that's the good stuff. That's the stuff I like to see. I mean, that's what, since even if you don't like that MK1's an assist fighter, it's still like where we are, so you may as well just kind of like enjoy it. That's the kind of stuff I like, just sit back and enjoy. That's just cool.
Yeah, stuff you never see anywhere, so
yeah, he brings special things, seeing things that only like he can do. How do you feel about the health costs? Are you taking that into account? Like, what should that knock him down to B since he takes off 50 health?
I don't think that 50 health is enough for me to move him down the list. Maybe because there's only 2 characters that have 900 health, right? Quan Chi and Natara. So I think everybody else they'd be at 950-ish. But I don't think that that's for like how good his like cooldowns are, like that that low shot being plus 14 on block for how fast that comes back is insane. Like, it's
Seems to be a common theme, you know, like Serena's projectile, and we were just talking about even like low hat when you're using it as a projectile. They really like those short cooldowns for things like that. They want you to be using them a lot. And you can see, like, as I saw Gur playing Geras and moved on from Kung Lao, but basically doing Kung Lao things only with Motaro. So, like on block, covering the negative frames on his forward 4-4 instead of low hat, which is now, you know, -2 or whatever it is, and now he's plus off Motaro.
right.
I'm not sure what the gap situation is there, but
You can armor,
man,
but I mean,
it looks cool when they get going. I think Motaro is a really cool addition to this game.
Tanya Motaro damn near feels like a block string against Quan Chi sometimes with that little multi-hitting string low shot, multi-hitting string low shot. It's like, I got to armor at some point, and then you try and armor, and then she finishes the string. I'm like, damn it, what am I supposed to do? But speaking of those moves that are kind of like, you know, like you're mentioning Serena. Serena's up next.
Oh.
And I have her in the A tier as well. I think
Okay.
she is super duper strong. She meshes again with literally everybody. And like a lot of people were kind of like, you saw her everywhere at the start of the game's life, right? Like people were burnt out on her a little bit at the start. And I think now she's kind of moved into a different like mindset for people. Like she just gives good damage. She has that little pea shooter that's annoying. She has her little meter stealing portal that Quan Chi used to have in MKX. Like she's just a solid cameo, and that's why we saw her everywhere when the game first came out, because it's easy to just pick up and learn, right?
Right, she's very basic and gives you those very basic things, which is just bigger damage, which is what everybody wants, especially at the beginning. But she's a really good character, or a really good cameo. I would compare it to like Chameleon to show you the difference between like a release cameo versus what's happening in the DLC. Like a really strong week 1 cameo versus the current really strong cameo. You and you can see that Serena's not giving you like any mix-ups or anything. She gives you some damage on hit confirm, or that really annoying projectile. If you get
Right.
caught with it, a lot of characters can combo from full screen. The meter burning thing can be super annoying if people are using it well. Her demon upkick is really good cancel for the end of block strings to keep you safe and to cover some gaps. If it hits, it gives you a safe jump.
It's good
It can give you
reversal.
combos in the corner. So, and I think it's got some of the, maybe not some of Shujinko's stuff, but I remember in the early days, like post release, that the iframes on that are more than others.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think she's really received many changes either, has she? She's kind of the same as she was on launch, maybe a couple frame changes, but nothing huge.
she got one fix. It wasn't a buff, it was a fix, and it was the way you remember when they Jataka's curse. Now it drains actually like a full bar.
Oh, that's right.
Like while they're in it.
That's right, because
And
they
it
could build
wasn't,
meter back as you were comboing, and basically acted as like Quan Chi's meter draining portal, or just kept him
sort
off
of,
breaker.
yeah. And it was just like, and now you can get like way closer, just taking like a full bar. They still build meter back as they're being comboed, but it wasn't like it was before.
Right.
Yeah, you were really fighting it before, especially if you're trying to keep people away from breaker. Like
Yeah.
they were building more meter from getting comboed than was being burned.
I forgot about those days.
So she's pretty basic, but very straightforward, very powerful. Another really good example of just like less can be more. It's just very simple, but very. We'll get to her. I feel like Sonya's in there. She's probably coming up next, I guess, alphabetically.
Next we have Young Scorpion.
Oh,
So
I know the alphabet.
they tried to buff this cameo by making his overhead safe. I think it's -7, -6, maybe somewhere in that range. But it's still
I think it's
really
like -2 or 3.
okay. I know it's safe.
They initially made it like -7, and then they made it even safer. The Ermac patch, if I remember correctly.
And then he also has some combo extenders and stuff. But being how slow that overhead hits, I feel like he's kind of in the same boat as Frost. Like, and I actually have him in the same tier as Frost. I have him in the C tier. Because
Really?
yeah, I do. I feel like it is mix, and you're kind of baiting your opponent on reacting. But yeah, I don't see a lot of Scorpion. The only time I really see Scorpion is with Lee May. So I'm not sure if that's a synergy thing. I haven't seen any type of things with other characters. I know that he has some combo extending properties and whatnot, but his cooldowns are okay. I think they're not the greatest, but they're not the worst.
I don't think he's super strong. I'm surprised to see him that low, but I think he's another like early meta cameo. But as more DLC has come out and the meta's changed, Scorpion's kind of left into the dust outside of. He's another popular pick for some Melinas, just because of the new combo paths that are more damaging that open up, which is why Lee may use like you can just two touch 1,000 health character.
Yeah. He has his places for
With
sure.
it, but he doesn't have a good reversal. I like the idea, the little reverse spear that gives you armor. I kind of like in concept, but it just loses value. The closer your back gets to the corner, you're losing, value of that move by the millimeter. The more you're walking
It's true.
backwards. So
Yeah, it's true.
and then when you use it to escape something, so again, I keep talking about because I went through basically all of the cameos to kind of see what they could cover as far as like my weaknesses, like the flawless block gap in Melina's 1-2. And even though he can yeet out of there, you're eating the first hit of the punish that's going through the armor and stuff.
Yep.
And it's not even an option if you're close to the corner. There's some other kind of like cool things about it, and the fire breath can combo off of anything. Like it can let characters combo off of sweeps. I mean, we see that with other ambushes. I think the novelty of that is kind of lost now that other ambushes can get that.
Yeah, it's just a lot of cameos can do what he can do better. He has some nice ideas, some nice things, but I think he needs some changes in order to make it all work. And it's kind of hard to like. I'm thinking like maybe like give him a new move or something, but it's hard to give him a new move when he's already in the game as a character as well. To like not kind of go back and forth on those types of things. So
Right, and man, I feel like I had a final thought about Scorpion. Like
that's okay. We're gonna move on with how bad is haters' knowledge of the alphabet because we're on sector now.
oh right, 'cause oh Jesus Christ, okay. Oh,
So
man.
so sector's one that you've been using recently.
I
and
love Sector.
yeah, I have a feeling you're gonna disagree with my placement a little bit on him. But
I'm gonna guess that you're gonna. Oh, spoiler! No, wait, go for it. I'm not gonna. I want to hear your rationale.
I have him in the B tier.
Okay.
I think he has some really good utility with the missiles. Obviously, I've seen you use them quite well. Flamethrower is really good and a restand, so it's crazy. He also has, which somebody actually brought to my attention in a video months ago that I did. He has a homing missile that takes his whole cameo bar. That like the game had been out for 3 months, and I didn't even know he had that. Like I think
it's
that's
like Goro's Stomp, to where you hit it again once they're out, and then it just turns into the different move. So if you're mashing missile, you'll get homing missile and spend your whole bar.
Oh,
Get
I
good.
see. Get
Yeah.
good. And the cooldown on that is abysmal. It's it takes forever, which I think is why you don't see anybody use it. But I think if you sped that up, it might break that move because that would be a pretty strong move, right? Just like a homing missile. So
I feel like he's probably the hardest. Like if we're sitting in a room with Paulo or whatever, listening to the cameo balance conversation and it got to sector, I feel like that's probably one of their most reluctant ones. I feel like the smallest tweak the wrong way will just, because no one just wants to hold missiles all day. And it's not so. So I've been using it. I used to use it as to kind of like approach, and I still do sometimes, but I like to save it more for like mix. So
right.
if I do like a missile setup and then open you up with a low, if I spend bar on that combo because I play Melina, that combo was long enough that. So let's say I started with full meter, right? And then I use the second missile. And then I do that same thing all over again. I'm pretty close to a missile by the time that whole sequence is over. And I can hit confirm into the teleport for a nice juicy sort of combo, and that in a missile cooldown. And by the time I end that combo, if I open you up with that mix, I've already got the cooldown back for another missile because the teleport cooldown is really fast, and so is flamethrower. So I feel like there's a huge balancing act, and that's where a lot of synergy comes from. And I don't know if you ever, like when you're in practice mode and you're like your lab and you're like, oh my god, I'm like a millisecond away from having cameo available again.
Right.
I wonder if I can just super like really hesitate at a certain point, just like cancel at the last frame, or I was doing that a lot with the Mavado trap combos to try to spend the full bar on a trap and then get something at the end. And it's definitely possible, and that stuff's really fun to explore. But I agree, B, I think that he's probably A if this was like a gradient, bottom of A, top of B,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like Goro's an up pump. I can speak up punch,
Up punch,
kind of like
bitch.
an up punch like lackey.
This is you're
Sector's
killing me,
kind of
Hayden.
missile lackey. He does have some, the flamethrower is good and stuff, but like when it comes down to it, he's kind of about the missile. That's his thing.
The teleport is really good at catching movement. I get caught moving and shit
So
all the
it's a
time.
nice little check. Death on block.
Right. As it should be.
You're right.
So let's continue on with how bad is Hater's knowledge of the alphabet with
Oh my
Shujinko.
God. Jesus, why did all these start with an S?
Oh, there's so
Dude,
many.
the screen you're smelling, the screen you're sharing is so small I can't even see.
Oh,
I can't
that's so funny.
Okay.
So Shujinko. So I have him in D tier actually because you have to charge him to use him.
Whatever. Get the fuck out of here.
No, I have him in A tier. I think he's like actually super duper good, and again, kind of gives everybody everything, especially with the changes that they gave him in the last patch. He definitely gives everybody a combo launcher now of some sort because he steals one from every character, which he didn't do before. But now they clearly said that's what we want you to use him for, and some of the potential things that people can do with him that I haven't even seen because I only use the one character. But I think some characters might actually really break this cameo. I know that I know you've had some salt in the past about good old Shujinko here.
If you play Ermac against somebody playing Shujinko, GG's. That is the most obnoxious shit I've ever seen. Like in this game, that is just overkill. It feels fine with other characters, but man, I'm sorry, you Ermac players. That is rough life.
Especially with Quan Chi, because you just you're trapped them in the air. You set up the portal so they can't break. Continue your combo. Build Shujinko back. He's ready to go by the time the end of the combo, and get another portal, and it's
right.
It's
He spent 6. If the Ermac player was to do something equivalent, it'd be like 6 bars of meter.
Yeah,
That's
totally right. And that's
I always thought this is obviously your tier list. I'm just, again, I'm here as a surrogate for the audience or whatever, right? Just asking some more probing questions, maybe giving my opinion, but you don't need to take it, and may not even be very, very good opinion. But this is the one where it's I can't let you put him any lower than A. There's no way. You're going to put him here anyway, I'm sure, but that was going to be, if I had any veto power, he is super solid A.
Yeah, he definitely would be on the top side of the A tier. I'm surprised more people don't use him. I think Honeybee uses him against Quan Chi, or at least used to. Not sure if that switched to Janet or not, but anyways, continuing on with how good is Hater's knowledge of the alphabet. This time it's good. This time it's good.
Okay.
We're on Sonya now.
All right.
So Sonya, I actually used Sonya for an entire Combat League season. And giving any character a mid projectile is really good. And then she has some good cooldowns on those as well. And then she has 2 separate combo extenders with the leg grab and the square wave punch.
Well, let's be real here. How many times in your entire life, outside of the stress test and the beta, have you seen that leg grab?
It's not that useful. It is useful for corner switch. I will say I've used it in that scenario, but outside of that, it's not great, and the scaling on it is not great.
She just has better options.
Yeah,
for the resources.
Yeah, for sure. And then,
but even as a reversal, it's supposed to be used as a reversal or wake up, and
it's not good for that.
No,
it's not good for that. So I have her in the B tier. Her projectile is really good. Easily one of the better cameo moves in the game, in my opinion. But just outside of that, I'm not really sure how useful she is. Square wave is nice. I've made some reads on jumps, but I think she's B. She's definitely not on the same tier as Frost and Scorpion, but I think B is fair in my opinion.
So, if we consider cameos or the strength of cameos to let's put it into 2 categories. They either make something that you're already doing better, or they give you something that you don't already have. Right. So Sonya, if all Sonya is bringing to your character is damage, I agree with you. But if you're a character that can make use of the projectile, do setups with the projectile, and still also do the square wave and stuff like that. She's giving you extra combos off of things that you normally can't special cancel into, and giving you armored launchers like with sub. And
Right.
if you can set up the fully charged projectile, and again, we've been talking about this theme with the projectiles, they've got the really fast cooldown. So if you're just kind of plucking away, it's on the slower side for a Kameo projectile, but it is a
Sure.
mid, so there's the balance there.
Yeah.
But there are that, like, some of the full charge projectile setups are pretty good. So I think that if she's giving you both of those things, right? She's giving you something that you already do and just making it better, and she's also bringing something new to the table. I would say that she's more like, again, probably living in the gradient low A high B or something. What would you
Yep.
do to make her better, to try to elevate her? I think she's another less is more, super simple but like super effective Kameo.
Yeah, I think if you gave her like Sonya's kiss move as like a restand, I think that would be pretty cool.
That would be sick, actually.
Yeah, like just like she comes out and like you know the kiss of death or whatever, and then but it restands your
Dude,
opponent. Like that would be pretty cool.
dude, she should have Poison Ivy's little cat kiss bitch slap restand from Injustice 2. That'd be awesome.
That would be fun. I would like that too.
I would welcome that reused asset with open arms. That'd be sweet. Maybe not quite in Sonya's personality, but
So moving from there on to Striker, and Striker, although receives some nerfs, more to like balance, so that both his grenades kind of come out like the cooldown's the same for them. I still think he's an A tier Kameo. He still very much employs that part of the game. I'm just gonna do a fuck you move that's minus 70 on block, but Striker's gonna come by and save my ass. So,
how's that different than Goro? Because they have similar cooldowns now. Like, that's how his cooldown is now with like the nerf. I feel like it's kind of like a Goro situation. You can still use it and it does the same thing. You're just fucking waiting for the paint to dry before you can do it again.
yeah, that's true. I think Striker has also some more utility in like plus
He's got
on
the
block mix-ups
restand.
and the
Right,
restand and that
yeah.
kind of a thing. So like, whereas Goro, you really only use him for one thing.
Honestly, how many things do you see besides maybe the occasional restand and grenades? You ever get the baton mixed up on you?
I have a couple times, but
Okay.
it's very
I feel
rare.
like I don't see that very often.
Yeah, I don't. It seems to be matchup dependent. People that have like mix-up characters will throw that in more. But mostly when I see them, it's the grenades. People are Baraka, blade charge into grenades kind of a thing.
I
right?
think I'm gonna call it now. We're not even through the tier list yet, but I'm gonna say that the people at large are gonna consider that the hot take of the tier list.
Interesting. You think he should be higher or lower?
Lower. I would say people that used to use it. So Baraka striker players, for example,
Right.
I feel like would put him lower, and it is just cooldown stuff. And it's just because there's better options, so you're not going to see him anymore.
It's true.
He's losing his relevance in the meta, just like Cyrax did before people started to kind of revive him, like the Sindel players and a couple other things, and showing us other stuff that he could do besides that. So until somebody shows us something to do with Striker that's not just grenades,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people will put him there.
Yeah, and I'd entertain that thought for sure. I just think he's still really strong, and maybe towards a little bit like the between A and B gradient you were talking about.
Grenades are still strong and annoying for sure, but that cooldown's a little rough. Not that I have any sympathy for Striker. I fucking hate that Kameo.
Sub-Zero is another one that I have in A tier.
Okay.
So this is which like my A tier is big, but I mean I like that. I like that all the cameos are kind of, most of them are balanced. Like, and Sub-Zero of course gives you the projectile immunity. Like that's mainly what his purpose serves. It's like we are going to completely. This is like the I hate zoners cameo. This one right here. Put on, like come fight me like a man cameo is this one. So you just put on your ice armor and then just don't even play neutral. Like most people that I play that use this cameo, just treat it like it's invincibility. Like they'll throw it on if I'm zoning them and they just charge in, and I usually just punish. But it basically just turns into neutral.
With a normal move that it does kind of give you that mindset, because I don't know what it is about it, but I totally agree. I've had the same observations. I've even been guilty of that when I was experimenting with him, like really early on.
Yeah, just as I'm invincible. What are you going to do? And then you smack him with a standing 3 or standing 4 or something. Well, okay. but
Right.
he does have like the shoulder charge, and then of course the freeze as well, which is I've seen multiple really strong setups with. I think Sub-Zero's a super strong cameo.
And he gives you 130 damage throw, which is,
That's true.
you know, more than average. He's got a pretty decent reversal, not the best, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Another really basic cameo, right? He's only got a couple moves, and it's pretty straightforward, but they're really powerful.
Right.
Not that the other ones like Janet and Chameleon aren't, but the way they kind of like lock behind other things. Well, I don't know what they're locking. I think they thought that the Sento thing would be used a lot more, and trying to lock some of her power behind that.
Yeah.
Cameos or Chameleon's obviously the kind of like rotating disguise sort of thing, but it does. It's kind of weird to think about, like, compare them side by side and look how basic some of these other ones
You're
are,
right.
but they're really strong. They're basic, but still really strong tools
And that's important.
for different reasons.
Exactly. Exactly. We're gonna finish this off here with Tremor, the very first DLC cameo, and I'm torn on him, to be honest. I want to put him in C tier, but I don't think that's quite where he belongs. I'm gonna put him in B just to be safe. But he doesn't seem to synergize with a lot of characters. Like a lot of people that I see use him, they use him for like the big like cancel full cameo bar, and then you gotta wait for him to come back. I really don't see anybody doing anything else with him. I played one Shang Tsung that was kind of using the punch, which was kind of interesting, the rock punch to kind of cover the strings. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe people just he seems to have the one useful move, which is the ambush combo starter. You get off Skydrop or off of Reiko's command grab or whatever.
Right,
And
like
then,
the low pulse, the ground pulse.
yeah, like he has a lot of moves, but a lot of them you just never see, and I don't know if that's because they're just not that great. Like I've messed around with some of them. He has that, I think it's in Metallic that he has like the upwards anti-air move, but it's just like too slow to be viable when you can just do a standing one or an up block for that reason. So I don't know. Have you seen anything I haven't, Hater? Anything that breaks this cameo?
No, not really. I feel like this might take a cameo specialist, right? Like the right sort of person, the right sort of frame of mind, playing the right sort of character, like thinking like really far outside the box. But I feel like even then, finding something might be an accident. I don't understand how this character has so many abilities, and
And
dude,
just
we just see people chilling in crystalline for the armor and then ready for the ambush and aftershock, and it is kind of like homogenized. I know that there's got to be other sauce in there, but I've gone through it to see if it fits my game plan. I know what I want out of a cameo, like
right.
with my character. I know what weaknesses I have that I would like a cameo to cover, and I know what, you know, to be adding on to damage or like whatever it is. And so, you know, what can I do from full screen with Tremor? I feel like that's something that I want a cameo to kind of bring. Give me something to do back there that's not just a teleporter inching my way in. And he's got projectiles. They're just so slow, like the
Yeah.
meatballs. Oh my god! And like
Yeah.
I bet there's some. As soon as I start seeing, because that's an overhead projectile. The up one's like an overhead. As soon as I start seeing mix-ups off of that, because the spacing's really weird, you're not doing that up close. But somebody's going to figure something out, you know, and bring all that together. And there's going to be some sick setup, that overhead projectile into like something else, and then I'll become a Tremor believer once I start seeing it. Literally anything outside of what we're already seeing. But I would say, with all of his tools and stuff, I would say again, like living up. Where do you have him in C
I haven't.
or B?
I wanted initially to put him in C. Like all my tier lists, I did like like up to this point just to see what my consistency was. I had him in C, but I mean,
How
I don't
many
know.
meta teams you see with Tremor? We got Reiko Tremor.
Quan Chi Tremor is one. The sky
I
drop.
saw Shao Tremor. That was actually pretty sick.
Oh, I've never seen that before. That sounds cool.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think that's fair. I feel like he's unexplored, but it's not like, I don't know. I don't know where the sauce is hiding. I'm excited for someone smarter than me to find it, but I think that it's in there.
I was messing around with like I do my really slow big chompy and then just throw the overhead rock if they try and jump over it. So that was like something I found, but even that didn't seem that fantastic. They could just block both or flawless block one, you know, that kind of thing. But
Right. And it is cool. Like he came out obviously before Chameleon, and how she's kind of like a spin on how they set him up. They gave him the variations that you can manually kind of scroll through. Everything's a summon, but you can turn anything into an ambush, for the cost of your bar. And they gave her the 3 sort of variation thing too, but it's a different way to transition through them, and it's a fixed cycle. You can't go back and forth.
Right.
I think Chameleon got the better end of that deal, if I'm to be honest.
Yeah.
Actually, the way they designed Tremor, all the moves and all the sorts of things, if that was on a 4-timer, that would actually like super suck. Like literally no one would use him. They even buffed him once, right? He didn't always give 100.
That's
health,
true.
did
That's
he?
true. No, he didn't. When he came out, he did not. And then they added that to him later on.
Like they did with Shujinko
Yeah.
after that.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I really like Trevor Tremor the Tremor. I really like him thematically. I would love to use him.
I'm calling him Trevor from now on, by the way. That's just
Trevor.
Be my thing. Oh, okay. We got Melina Trevor going on over here.
Trevor and letter S of the alphabet. Man, there's so many S characters in this game. It's like half the roster, their name starts with an S.
Yeah, I was gonna try and trick you and do another one and put Striker first and be like,
no.
But
I actually thought about that after.
That's too funny.
So
So
anyway, that's the tier list, right?
that's the tier list. So I think the moral of the story is quite largely pay to win. The 2 S tier cameos are DLC outside of Tremor, of course. But the balance is good. There were a lot of cameos that I was very hesitant on kind of where to put and could fall in different tiers. So I would just like to see, like, I feel if they brought up those bottom 3, that would be a pretty good mix across the board.
Try to inch everyone closer to where A is the most highly popular. So you think that A is like they're good, they don't really like need anything, and then do you think that S maybe needs to come down to meet that, and then C or B and below can go up to kind of meet that?
Yeah, that's kind of like, that's a good way to put it. Those are the ones that I think could be balanced up, and the S tier is ones that I think could be balanced down. If everyone's at A, I think that's fantastic. That's good balance.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, let me know what you think in the comments, because I'm sure people always have takes when it comes to tier lists. But that's it for us. Thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, because it really helps us out, and subscribe if you haven't, because we make new videos almost every single day. Hashtag Bonehawks and all that stuff, and we'll see all you Bonehawks in the next video.
Accept your death.